Leadership Story Talks, where we discuss the practices that engage, motivate, develop, retain, and attract people to businesses. We'll give you principles and tools based on real-world stories to leverage listening and storytelling to become a better leader and management professional. Leadership Story Talks is produced by Narrative, a company that focuses on personal storytelling for business.
And I encourage and coach leaders to do that all the time. We can all get better. As great as this work session is, and we've tried to cover all our bases here, boy, the person that says, "Oh, I've arrived, I don't need to learn anymore," that's the person that's going to be left behind. So always be looking for ways to get better. And so I love that you said, gosh, the long-term goal is trust. And if we start to build trust in our team this way, giving and receiving feedback, then we can have this real culture of feedback that makes this team unstoppable because they're helping each other get better.
All right, that was Todd Davis. Really had a good time, a great conversation with Todd. Lots of stories, but one in particular that we highlighted here is, how he built trust by telling his own very vulnerable story about a misstep, and not having a conversation that he knew he needed to have for 7 months, and what ended up being that what he thought was going to be a terrible thing actually wasn't. But the thing that he got the most feedback on was, why did it take you 7 months to have this conversation? So we thought that was a really great kind of springboard for us to talk a little bit about the impact of storytelling and how that can build trust.
Oh yeah, because the lead up too is like you have a big brand, big title, big everything. And Todd took a step forward and said, "This is when I failed. This is how I fixed it, and this is what I learned." And I appreciate that honesty, and that immediately made me go, "Hmm." So that's the makings of this person. That says a lot about him and also probably about the people he's working with or hiring for his group. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. But 7 months, that was a long that was
Yeah,
a long ramp up of learning. But I totally appreciate it. Sometimes you just don't want to go there on some conversations, and you do everything in your
absolutely.
brother to avoid them. So,
Yeah, and it's so unusual, because C-suite executives like he is, it's like all about being fast, and that's sort of, those are the kinds of stories we hear, and it can be a little bit, it's impressive, obviously, but it's also kind of
mhm.
intimidating, and you're wondering, are these people really human? And so this really
Yes.
humanized that position to say, we're not all perfect actually, and there are things that stop us in our tracks. The point is, what do we learn from that? And clearly, he's learned a lot because now there's a course about how to navigate difficult situations and difficult conversations. And that makes me trust him more and trust
Mhm.
that course more because of that story. I'm like, okay, yeah, you've lived through something like this, like what I'm about to learn in your course. So by telling me that story, I'm now much more confident that I'm going to get something out of it.
Two things came to mind because I think in pictures. So right as when you were using the word hero, I had this Superman image in my mind that, with the brand, sometimes they're like, we're in to save the day and we're
Mm,
going to be perfect. And you don't have any mistakes to worry about. Just do these bulleted things and everything will be fine. And he chose not to do that. And when he tells his truth, I guarantee you, because it's happened with us, that people are going to be willing to show their hand and go, well, there
yeah.
was that moment where I did X, Y, and Z, and it went sideways. And that's where the beauty of the learnings come from. But no one's going there till you to show up and tell little truths and use some humor, use some reality, and just show that you're learning as you go. So I think that was the best surprise of all. I wasn't ready for
Yeah.
that, but I was really excited when that happened.
Yeah, and I think it works at all levels, right? Whether you are a C-suite executive or not, that ability to tell a story that's relevant to the conversation at hand and that is a lived experience of yours, as opposed to something that happens to somebody else. It's going to make you more trustworthy, but also memorable. People are going to remember
Mhm.
that, and they'll remember that moment when you step forward to tell a story that didn't necessarily shine the best light on you, but again, because you learned from it, and it's in hindsight, you can actually tell that story, and that there's a point to it, as opposed to, well, I really failed at this thing, and then nothing else, right? So that doesn't have quite the same impact.
We use the word sustainability and repurposing quite a bit in our culture now from environment. What about we took all those not so great stories and
Mm,
incidents where we failed when things grow and say, with time, with a little distance, we're going to use this for something to teach and play it forward and help somebody else do a better job.
I love
And
it.
I love it.
And what a great way to, I love that word repurposing, recycling, because what a great way to kind of look at these really not so pleasant experiences, but you're actually recycling them into a brand new thing, right? We're taking all these empty plastic bottles and there's a sculpture, you know? So yeah, I think that's a wonderful piece of advice. So we encourage everybody to try this out. Try this out. Look at those experiences that weren't so great, but now with the benefit of hindsight, you can see what you learned from them. And now that
Mhm,
becomes a really powerful story. All right.
indeed.
Well, great. Thanks, Julienne, for another round of a debrief episode and some words of wisdom. And again, for our audience, please go to our website, narrative.com, for more on this and other tips and advice. There's the podcast, there's also the blog, there's our YouTube channel. So go and learn more about how you can turn these unpleasant experiences into fantastic stories. All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.